Well, I'm sore. I'm out of it. All I had yesterday was a sugar tea. I ran out of water. So last night I ended up staying up all night because I ran out of sleeping pills. I feel like shit today. So this is day 4 of chicken and rice. Chicken and rice. My body's definitely reacting to all the sugar I had in yesterday. But the caveat is that I don't stop moving, I don't stop walking, I don't stop some form of training. I'm pretty sore. I'm prompted to take a day off. That's definitely something that I noticed, that I get sore faster. I'm heavier. I feel heavier because I have all the glycogen in my system. And I wonder what the fuck I'm doing really. Trying to recapture ground that just doesn't exist anymore. Like I exist, but I'm in a quasi-existence, and is my quasi-existent state even crucial to anyone or anything? This is when people have to begin to really look at themselves from a sort of computational perspective, not sort of, but looking at the algorithm that has involved life and how it goes on without you. And you have to ask yourself just how crucial you are in the picture, in the grand scope of it, even in the small scope. I think one of the hardest things for people to come down to is the fact that they're not going to have a reason or be given a reason. Nothing owes you a reason why you live, why you got it. And motherfuckers are just fucking with our lives. They're doing this Kabbalistic shit. It's working, so they keep doing it. And they don't really know why the fuck they're doing it, but it's just working. It's keeping them rich. It's keeping them in power. And to say that they're spoken to and told things, auto-directed type of shit, is an understatement. To say that they follow a certain cue or code of ethics, and that's exactly what ethics really are, is it removes the morality, or even more so, a subset of principles that are universally agreed upon. This is the thing about Christian fundamentalists, that they can't agree on exact principles. When they begin to talk about those principles, they're weak, they're wishy-washy. But they'll argue with you, and they'll call the police on you, and they'll turn into what they call Karens. I don't like to use those stupid generic terms. Those aren't my terms, but so that you understand what I'm saying. And they work as Manchurian candidates, counter-espionage agents, right? So they work for something that functions. And the reason it functions is because it gives them a house, gives them a car, and puts money in their pocket. And then every now and then they're showed that their enemies, after they curse them or do some sort of satanic fucking war sign on them or blackball them or whatever witchcraft they're trying to follow, people are doing this left and right. They're using this hocus pocus. It doesn't matter if you haven't studied it. The idea will come to you, you'll do it, you'll do a gesture. You're already initiated. You're already in it. You gotta see it. Yeah, I feel like utter shit. And the fact of the matter is that I'm not even doing anything but eating supposedly good food, rice and chicken, and taking supplements. And I still feel like shit. Just trying to survive. And that's my whole point to this, is like, how important is it that you survive? Are you surviving for your little kids? Honestly. Now that years have gone by, are you surviving for them? Are you surviving for a spouse that cheated on you and turned on you long before you even knew about it? Or thought that they would, that there is no loyalty? Or parents that are completely disloyal? And that loyalty was just a presupposition. It was part of an occult idea that never existed. It's a phantom. You have to really come down to this. And then, the most ungratifying aspect of this is when you're out on the street and you're dying alone, which I've been in that position many times, and you think back at how you sacrificed everything and the way that you were manipulated, and it wasn't by a person, it was a group, and that group actually has the audacity to show their face. You'll never see the true names or the true faces. They're always those who are swayed and just become a part of it. They're the consensus. The most dangerous thing is the consensus. It's the consensus opinion. It's the fact that man cannot rise above. Even if you take the most intelligent person that comes up with the most intricate thought process, the rest of the heathens don't understand what the fuck is going on. And if and when they did, it would be too late. And that's why Bill Cooper called it the hour of the time. That we're doomed. But the beauty of that is that there's something found, hope is found in that reality. Hope is found in the consignment that you no longer live for any purpose, and yeah, you're gonna die. And they don't see your value, and it wouldn't matter if they did, and you essentially have no value anymore, right? But then you get into this aspect. I gotta kind of mess with my shoulder here for a second. Shoulder's really bothering me. Painful every day. Every day. Broke my collarbone because I was underfed. Underloved, undernourished. Or somebody was teaching me some judo and did this little move and just cracked my collarbone. And it's never healed back since. It's been utter pain for 40 years of my life since then, something like that. 44 years of my life has been utter pain. Constant pain. This shoulder always fucked me up, taking me from everything. And it just gets into what I'm talking about. Like your value, it'll change in a moment. It'll change in a millisecond. What you're capable of doing, where you're capable of going. That will just randomly seem to change, but there's nothing random about it. They're number systems. The numerology and the gematria is always there. They're using this codified system. If you were to go to somebody and say, I hate you, Jeffrey Epstein. I hate you, Trump. I hate you. It's like, you're just talking about the bozo at the counter. So what people are confused with is that they think that they have somebody who actually might be one of them and fighting for them. right? That someone would take no official stance, but this is what the invisible college really is. This is what Rudolf Steiner, when he was talking about the spiritual masons, okay? Trump's gone through all the initiatory process. He doesn't need to show any affiliation. He's a bozo. Too many people jumped at the gun. So yeah, I don't know if I'm putting on body fat or what. But for the past 4 or 5 days, my fat intake has been ultra low, and all I've been doing is eating rice, chicken, and then yesterday the only thing that I did that wasn't rice, actually, so I ate a little tiny bit of fruit, a little bit of strawberries a few days ago, and then I had sweet tea all yesterday. Like instead of water, I ran out of water. I literally drank about 150 plus ounces of a gallon of sweet tea. It wasn't like heavily sugar, but it was just sugar. That's what it said. It said cane sugar, it didn't say pure cane sugar. On the back it just said sugar. So I assume that that's just like glucose. But, you know, derivative as well. Or you could say sucrose, right? It's just how your body, it's a monosaccharide. When they say sugar, you really can't fucking tell. What is that green leaf stuff? That's sucralose, that's fructose, dextrose. I mean, these are all just simple monosaccharides. But they do make a difference, and they react in your body a little bit differently. They'll react with your insulin, blood glucose just slightly different, and then depending on when you take them and how you take them, like a lot of bodybuilders will load up and get their pump up after a workout off, you know, taking a large amount of like dextrose. So yeah, I'm just going back to what I do, going back to what I know, allowing my body to go through an adjustment period. It takes a week, no matter what diet you switch over to, and you can rush that and start to see effects occur after, like, I'm on the 4th day here, if you continue to exercise. So everything happens in a more exponential state if you're walking and creating oxidizing stress. Makes a big difference. So if you're doing an orthomolecular nutrition plan, you're trying to force feed yourself a lot of vitamin C, which I'm just down to taking a base dose these days. It's been over 2 weeks that I've been doing TMG, trimethylglycine now. And I have been working out a lot on, as compared to the past, really the number of days might be 4 or 5 per week. Again, I'm having a lot of shoulder issues, a lot of shoulder problems with my right shoulder. Yesterday I was surprised at how sore my quads are. Right? So I've been jumping into doing at least 4 or 5 sets of squats every single training day, so 4 or 5 days a week. And I've been doing that for some weeks now. Several weeks. A few weeks. I've been working out on the TRX and ramping up on that for about 6 weeks. Seeing some, I'm not going to say modest hypertrophy, but I'm starting to see the arms pop out a little bit, but I'm not getting like a huge glycogen storage in those areas because I'm coming off the carnivore and did the carnivore before that. And what the carnivore does is it causes you to be really flat. When you start reintroducing carbohydrates, your body's really inefficient at storing the, it affects everything, you know? So there's a difference with how your muscles store glycogen. I think even chronically or long term after you've done the carnivore. I actually think there may be some negatives about the carnivore that haven't really been looked into deeply enough, particularly going that deep into ketosis. People don't realize that when they go through extremes, they're changing themselves, they're altering themselves. Your body's getting a direct signal that this is the only food that's available, and you better fucking live with it. So, yeah, that really hurts always, all night, keeps me up at night. Talking 44 years of my life. I probably have to have it sawed open. Have you ever seen rotator cuff surgery? It's pretty major surgery. I'm gonna be 56. There's a point where if you don't take care of that stuff, you might as well just be dead, you know? And it's not in a morbid sort of way, like, it's kind of what I'm talking about here. It's directly what I'm talking about is the fact that you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself. If you can start seeing the broad picture of the reality, it's kind of like you're carrying this burden, this soul along with you, right? You're carrying this cross on your back, and we all are, and we're all trying to pretend that we're not. And when you finally come to peace with it, you're like, okay, I thought that my soul was going to burn in damnation. I thought that it was all over for me. All these weird ass experiences and terrible things happen in this life, right? You can look at it numerologically, you can look at it through gematria, you can see it in many different ways, but it's not going to change the fact that here you are through the succession of steps. You could say at the end of a physical road or a physical life, right? And that the two don't really cross correlate, right? The reality of the soul, and I always like to refer to it more like from a purified sense, doesn't it all sink in with what I would refer to just for now as a left-hand path sort of computational modality. The two don't have anything in common with one another. Your internal self, your internal struggles, your internal battle doesn't have anything to do with the shit that's happening outside. But what they like to do is they like to overlap it because they're very aware of how they can manipulate it. So I do think that there's like this nectar of the gods that I've spoken about, like there's this elixir, this sort of materia prima, this gold, this substance that very well could be you, the true you, the soul aspect of you. And I think there's always a gamble, like let's try to take it. Let's try to rob it from everyone. Well, this is the process. You gotta make them think that they're corrupt, right? You have to get them to go through these rituals and then take up these rituals. You gotta get them to denounce it, and then they'll be at the end of their rope where they think, life sucks, I wanna die. And then that is when you either you assess them and look at them like, are they salvageable? Maybe they need to join us, right? But you have these soulless individuals, right? They don't want a soul, they don't require a soul, and then even more so, you'll see them calling each other's names out through the brotherhood. And I think that something happened, not only after they had turned on, and you could say defeated, but I think that the Masons represent a very cowardly clan, where they actually did some very divisive actions that actually killed the giants off. And that then there was an issue of the power that emanated from these giants, right? Where they were kind of like they weren't meant to die. Like they were kicked out of the computational subset, but they're the rulers. They're the energy. They can't be replaced. So what you have is you have this shuffling of these very machinating, terrible men that have no principles, right? And that take on this mantra of the Templars and what became the Templars, the Vatican. All of them are affiliated with each other. Leads back to Operation Gladio and all this shit that's going on. The Ophites and Sarmatians and the fucking Babylonians. This goes on and on. It's all fucked up, right? And that's what's going on. Is that this story of Osiris ties directly into it. David wasn't the good guy. David was basically using the principles that are in the tree of life against the giant. And then everybody celebrated the giant being killed. And that story's all fucked up, because it's like, you got this giant who's sometimes depicted at what would be 6 feet tall, and then there's something like 12 to 15 different stories plus of David and Goliath. And you could even say that does kind of tie into how these stories are just retold, redepicted, and rebranded. You know, when you have Mithraism and all the other Medea and this Jainism almost makes more sense than anything, where it's like you don't have to call it God, but then it leads back into this Neoplatonic sort of animism, and you know, it's just people trying to think too fucking much. And then what do you think Plato did, right? He was basically selling comic books. Like you come up with this novel idea, you come through this succession of information. You tie in a theology, a type of theology, deism. You tie some of this shit in with philosophy, and you say this is a way to go, and then it's like, okay, let's do it. You think everyone's gonna say, fuck you, you know, I have my own way. That's not what people say. Suddenly you got all these motherfuckers doing business together at church. You know, so that's where we're at. Lots of pain. So if I can't get anything done in a day, and I'm really fucked up and in pain and I don't have anything left, I'll just walk. I'll hobble. If you have a place to do it, if you can keep a place for another day to do it, just keep fucking doing it. It doesn't mean anything's gonna turn out, man. It doesn't mean anything's gonna turn around for you. There are no promises at all about anything. You really have to get mature and come to terms with that. You know, and it's a maturity of the soul, and a lot of this is talked about through Gnosticism, which turns a lot of people off. But if you really look into Gnosticism, you'll begin to see things that really make sense. Personal, on a personal scale, through personal struggle. Identifying things that just don't make rational sense when you're trying to formulate and format an overly structured religion that has to serve all these arms. It's just like Aristotle. It's like there is no meshing and intermatching of the individual and the existential government. It doesn't work. The outside doesn't serve the inside, and the inside doesn't serve the outside. And really, when we start to find some sort of treaties, which there isn't one, it's a compromise, it's with the diet. And why diets are so heavily ingrained into religion and the way of peoples and so forth. We're supposed to just accept it. Well, I don't accept it. I never have. I don't accept anything that's been placed before me. And at the end of the day, you have nothing. You have nothing to fall back on. Because you haven't suffocated to an ideology, a false religion. Don't you see, it keeps you perpetuating and being the same way? And that's what you're agreeing to. You're becoming the straw man. You're saying, this is the society I was born in. This is obviously the religions that are okayed and stamped for the straw man to use. But they didn't exist 2,000 years ago, or 3,000 or 4,000. They're not going to exist thousands of years from now. And they'll just be this reshuffling and capitulation of principles. And that's not what principles do. They're solid, they're a foundation, and they're more important than any religion. And really, if we followed our principles, we wouldn't be killing animals and eating them. That's a given. You have to be real honest with yourself. Because a lot of people get caught up in the succession of steps after the reality of what's right, what's wrong. Well, it's not based right and wrong on the existential. Let's talk about the soul. What's going to keep you as an individual pure? What's pure? You never were. Maybe you're not really a person at all. Maybe you are desperately trying to become a person and you know you're not. Maybe that's all of us. Maybe we're all living on presupposition. Right? So I'd really like to do a shoulder workout. That pain it's just excruciating. It's an excruciating type of pain that I'm always in with my shoulder. I never even used to talk about it because I always thought I could move past it. Sometimes it helps just to like force muscles to fire off that are synergistically supporting it. I've never had it x-rayed and looked at it. That is fucked. And that's a big reason, that's a big deterrent from just moving at all, like, where you go, okay. And when you fuck up, you'll think you got fat, you'll think you fucked up, but the truth is, it's very hard to take in sugar and to get fat and fuck up. You'll put on a shit ton of water, you'll think you're putting on fat, but the only thing that's gonna make you fat off doing carbohydrates is when you eat fat with carbohydrates. Do not eat fat with carbohydrates. Do not eat a pastry, do not eat ice cream. Just separate them. It's that simple. And then start to do it. The fat-free thing, you're going to have more energy to train. You're going to store more glycogen, obviously, on a glycolytic diet plan. But the fat burning and the fat-free, the absence of fat, it takes some time to work in. And you can say that about ketosis as well, but what is going on is that your body has to be put through oxidative stress, right? So what you realize is your workouts have to get a lot more intense, and there has to be a transition from the phosphagen to the, glycolysis or glycolytic, and then playing with the lactic acid. When you're eating carbohydrates, that's the method. That's how you do it. You tap into it through higher intensity exercise. That's why athleticism and performance is based on, it's entirely based on the glycolytic carbohydrate diet. fact, you could say that it's so extreme is that you could set a whole different parameter of all athleticism that's just based on something like going into ketosis, right? Where many athletic pursuits you couldn't even do. You couldn't even do it. You wouldn't have the speed, you wouldn't have the generation or the regeneration. You just wouldn't have it there. And people of life have tried to challenge that, but it's a fact. Just like you don't have bodybuilders stepping up on stage that are ketotic. They're fucking glycolytic through their fucking ass, man, literally. It's how you see their muscles. So performance is the operation of that musculature in motor movement, in action, through succession. Performance in sport is a representation of the carbohydrate. It's why it's so, hedonism and Epicureanism is all very much associated with the Olympics and with the Olympiad. The grapes, the bounty, the food, becoming the best. The voluptuousness, of the muscular voluptuousness, the voluptuousness of the feminine, goddess or that form. You can't be. So, you could still eat animal protein like I am and be in glycolysis. Like to jump ahead and to say that that's a representation of veganism or vegetarianism is not. It's the bounty of both worlds, Cain and Abel, taking in the grain and the cultivation and the methods required to extract the sugars from the sugar molecules. And the most anabolic agent is sugar. It causes your insulin to spike. It causes your glucose to rise. It causes rapid storage. It is what triggers your insulin. That is the most anabolic agent, sugar. And that's what everything's broken down into. All of the, the whole process. You can get into all the names, You could look at it through sliding filament theory and get into the Cori cycle and the electron transport chain. Go through all this bullshit, but